Hello, I am Sharon Ma, a graduate student at Parsons, the New School for Design. Searching for a working contemporary artist to present, I want someone whose art is similar to my own, with material culture and interests in the ways that objects' meanings shift through time, through cultural conditioning, and through individual perception. Because I look at the relationships in which society becomes attached to certain everyday objects through an individual's meaning, I chose Haim Steinbach, an artist known for his style of arranging ready-mades with other seemingly ordinary objects on a shelf, so that a viewer makes connections among the items displayed. For investigation, I went to the Tanya Bonakdar Gallery, where he has a solo exhibition titled Creature. In addition to his most recent art, I will also discuss Mr. Steinbach's career and other contemporary artists that have similar styles and ideas. The slideshow presentation will include mainly his work shown at the gallery and some views of his previous work, along with examples from other artists. Steinbach is interested in how an object of commodity becomes an object that is internalized once it is brought into the home. He saw and still sees ready-mades as art, because he says that objects, commodity products, or artworks have functions for us that are not unlike words, language. We invented them for our own use, and we communicate through them, thereby getting into self-realization. He works this language out through the display of his art, and asks the viewer to interpret what is being said based on the preconceived ideas that stem from the objects, and how they correlate with each other on that shelf. By doing so, he plays with perceptions and creates new meanings, where his audience completes the thought. The 2 floors of the Bonakdar Gallery showcase a range of Steinbach's installation pieces. The first floor is broken into 2 sections. In the front is the larger portion of the gallery, where he exhibits ready-made items placed on shelves that run at the same height, along all 4 walls. These items include a dog's chew toy, a metal pail, a Darth Vader action figure, a couple of cookie jars in the shape of cartoonish frogs, a mermaid figurehead, and many more, all of which are strategically presented to invite a viewer to take a closer examination from all angles. In the back of the first floor gallery is a small room with a glass case on either sides that houses an Edgar Degas statue on a little wooden stool. Opposite those are texts in large font, printed on walls facing each other that read, "No elephants," on one side, and the other has, "And to think it all started with a mouse." The upstairs gallery is separated into 2 sections as well. The front lends itself to a series of walls behind one another, decorated with a variety of busy wallpaper patterns or left unfinished, and leads into a greatly angled room with the text, "You don't see it, do you?" Again, Steinbach invites the creative connection and completion of thought and makes associations with what a viewer sees, real or imagined. Then in the back of the upstairs gallery is the exhibition named Feature. It is the creature from the Black Lagoon, in which Steinbach involves a viewer's association with an object aids in formulating the narrative, creating a meaning that is undefined because each person sees differently. He is interested in the relationship of a person and an object. Steinbach was born in Rojava, Israel in 1944. He then moved to the United States in 1957, where he currently lives and works in Brooklyn. He began his career at the Pratt Institute, but took a year off to go to France, where he earned a diploma. After he returned to the U.S., he finished his BA at Pratt in 1968, and continued his education at Yale, where he earned his MFA in 1973. By the time he was in the U.S., he was inspired by the European paintings at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So when he first started making art, it was during his years at Yale, where he spray-painted flat paintings, but then he decided to replace these paintings with cultural material. Steinbach believes that objects provide typology, and to place them on shelves is to memorize and memorialize these objects. All of these objects exhibited are neatly arranged, allowing the audience to examine the pieces more closely, but without actually touching them. In his reasoning for the use of shelves, he says, there may be something ceremonial, of course, about building the shelf and presenting things on it thusly. The work refers to the way we give place to things, at home or in the museum. There's a ritual there, a look-here gesture, a history, a cultural tradition, a manner of speech. We follow the practice of building this kind of structure to communicate with objects. When he first started making shelves, he worked with laminates and veneers to represent simulations of one material into another, like a mirror, but over the years this evolved into painting the shelves with colors that come from the object's packaging. In understanding the objects, he believes that relationships formed between person to person and culture, culture to culture, and past and present can be represented through an object. Steinbach created his signature shelf display about 40 years ago and continues to work with everyday objects. In addition to making these sculptures, he has taught at Cornell University and the School of Visual Arts, and travels extensively for shows and lectures. His resume includes 31 pages of small font, which describes his solo and group exhibitions totaling over 600 to date. Also represented at the Tanya Bonaktar Gallery are Mark Dion and Jillian Waring, who share similar styles in which they work because both use objects to comment on institutions. Mr. Dion uses humor in producing displays and cabinets of curiosities to comment on the practices of institutions. He works with installations encompassing the display of the natural world and archaeology with ecology, history, and public knowledge. These installations may be found in museums or out in the field. Waring uses photography and video to explore people's truths. Most notable works of hers involve signs that express what a person says, not from prompting of what should be said, but what a person wants to say, in her best-known series called Signs That Say What You Want Them to Say, and Not Signs That Say What Someone Else Wants You to Say. In her more recent work, she calls Secrets and Lies, is an installation that looks somewhat like a confessional, and inside the booth is a looping video with people wearing flesh-tone masks, confessing details about their lives that most people will find chilling. All three artists play with perception through the use of objects as artifacts and through presentation. They question an individual's history and identity, and how individuals relate to others and society as a whole. These artists also use representation as means of identity rather than picturing people based on the physical body. They make their audience re-examine the context in which they once perceived. For more information, please email me, sharon.ma.photo@gmail.com.